Hey everybody, welcome to Garrett's Games of Geekiness. We are a audio podcast, but now we're doing videos.
How many audio do we have?
We're 950 some odd audio weekly podcasts. So you can go and check that over at garrettsgames.com. You can sponsor the podcast at patreon.com/garrettsgames. You can even go down to the show notes here, and we have an extensive list of games that no longer fit on our shelves but belong on your table, and it's a great way to sponsor the podcast too.
Definitely.
So we're every week, or many times a week, as we're moving through here, we're trying to get as many of the new Essen 2024 games played and then doing a video for each of them, in which we then follow up and go into a little bit more detail on the audio podcast, which is weekly, and actually may even be coming out more than weekly because we have some extras coming out on that one
How
too.
many years?
So 18 years?
Yeah.
19 years in January. 2006 is when we started with that. So, yeah. All right. So how you doing, honey bunch?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. That's a tradition. We always say that.
Yeah, we do. We're sorry if it's gross.
No, God, why is it gross? I love you. It's fantastic. I get to play games with my best friend and the love of my life. It's fantastic.
We're very lucky.
All right. So this week we have, or this video, we have Tower Up. This is designed by Gregoire Largey, Frank Crittin, and Sebastien Pauchon. The art is by Nadege Caligari, Laurent Escoffier, and Jeffrey Steparenko. Wow, got all those. And the publisher is Monolith. It is for 2 to 4 players, says 8+ on the box, and plays in 30 to 45 minutes. With 2 players, even shorter than that. So pretty cool game that we've got here. And so let's take a minute and give you an overview of what's going on with Tower Up. So as we said, Tower Up is a game for 2 to 4 players, and it's definitely in the family range with that 30 to 45 minutes and so on. You can see we've set it up for 2 players. I'm going to take these tokens off the board real quick because, very cool, they have it so that the 3 to 4 player map actually opens out and is bigger. Makes sense when you got 3 to 4 players.
Yeah, that's great.
So when you're setting up the game, everybody gets their own player board, a nice double layer player board.
So nice, because you're never going to bump your pieces and mess things up. You're always going to know what your scores are.
Exactly.
And where your levels are.
You'll notice that we've got 4 different colors of towers that we are building. Everybody has 10 roofs that they are going to be placing on the towers. And you have cards that you are going to be drafting. And your turn is either going to be drafting a card and taking the resources that are on it, or building a building. Now, everybody starts with 1 of each color, 1 of each piece in each color that we've got here. So we've got those things there. And so if I wanted to, for example, draft a card, I could take this card, and this would mean that I would advance 1, 2 in white, as well as take a tower piece of whatever I want. So say I'm looking at this and I'm just going to take a white piece for here, and then that would go on the discard. We refill, and you can only take from the 3 cards that are in the visible market. All right. The board would be seated. I should have said that. The board is seated by the color that is at the bottom of the 3 cards that are in the market at the start of the game. So we'd put a black anywhere out here, and then we'd get to choose, and probably want 2 different colors. So maybe a white and a gray. Notice they're wild, so that would be the case.
Want,
exactly. So we've got that. So Shell, why don't you talk a little bit about the end game, or the in-game, I should say, scoring, the competition that you've got for these cards.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Well, so we haven't really learned how to play this part of the game yet, but in terms of what you're actually looking to do, that you're competing for, is these cards here. And there's many varieties of these cards as well, and we'll go over a few of them.
The ones that have the S are the ones that they say you should play with in your first game. So there's 3 that have that.
So this indicates that you would want to have control over a brown, a gray, a white, and a black building, because you can see that that's what's on the card. This one would indicate that you want to have 4 buildings in the garden areas.
So that would be, you'd have one of your roofs on, yeah, exactly. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 garden areas, and you'd want to have a roof in those.
And this one indicates that there's color regions here, and you'd want to have one in each of the different color regions.
Right.
Obviously, the first person who does that gets the higher value, and the other people get the lower value, the second player.
In the 3 and 4 player game, there is a 5 and then a second 3 that's added for the 4 player of this.
We've played with all these cards, and we can say that all the end game scorings does change the game quite a bit. It makes it a lot of fun.
Does. Yeah, exactly. So let's talk a little bit about how we do the buildings before we talk a little bit about more on these cards. So to do a building, you have to pay for its cost, and its cost is the other buildings that are out there. So the 2 factors for building are that number 1, you must build next to at least 1 adjacent building. And then 2, you cannot build in the same color as any of the adjacent buildings. And then I should say 3, you have to pay the cost, which is a color on a new level, a new floor in all of those adjacent buildings. So for example, if we built over here, I could choose whichever color as long as it isn't gray. I could put a brown, for example, and then put a gray as my payment on top of that adjacent building. And now I could
decide if you want to go here or here.
Exactly. And after you've done that, whichever one you did, so for example, if we went here, you are going to advance your little token here. Well, actually, let's just, since we're all over here.
Yeah.
We advance to 1, 2 in gray.
Or you could have chose to advance 1 in brown.
1 in brown, exactly.
Right.
Okay. Now, say it's Shelley's turn. She's looking at this, and she's going to say, well, I really want to build in here, and maybe there was the scoring which is by a lake. So she cannot put a brown or a gray, so she could put a white, but then has to pay in brown and gray, and now could build on any of these. If she really wanted to be next to that lake, she could go here, but notice that I've been covered here. She goes here and now gets 1, 2, 3 in gray, all right? But I still have presence in this building. So for scoring purposes, I still have a presence in a gray building, even though I'm no longer on the top as the roof in that gray building.
So you're not really upset when somebody goes on top necessarily. It just means they're going to get more points or more bumping up over here, but it's not going to affect your ability to accomplish these
Exactly.
It's
not removing your chance to accomplish.
Which is good.
Yeah. So why don't we talk about a few more of these cards?
Okay. So some of the cards indicate that you want to have connections between the different regions. So you have to look and see which ones are have little connections.
So, for example, Shelley would be halfway there if she had this because she's in both the brown or the orangish brown and the gray region.
Right.
So that would be one of those. Now, we noticed that you couldn't have it so that this same one, actually if it was
building.
like here, it couldn't be like over into this one too. So you can't use the same building for that connection. Exactly. Right. This is 4 different brown buildings that you're in.
Right.
And so this would be like 5 different buildings that are all connected together. Here's one where it's 2 of your roofs in the same building. So that's where, I get that going.
So we would both be starting this one, but not finished. We need to keep going on that.
Exactly. Now notice that a building has to be all of the same type. You're not changing its color. Yeah, right. Exactly. And so you play out until someone finishes their all of their roofs. Mm-hmm. Once somebody does that, they stop before it's the next person's turn. Everybody's going to get one more turn. You count how many roofs you have that are on top of buildings. So being on top is important for that. So for example, right now, if the game were to end, it wouldn't. But if we were to get orange would have 2 buildings for their roofs, and so they move these things along. I should say, whenever you hit or pass a star column here,
Right.
you get a bonus action. So if it were like this and I played on top of this gray and moved forward 1, 2, 3, here I wouldn't get 2 extra actions even because it was so far back. Instead, I would just get 1 extra action. But then
if this were going up further, though, in a future turn.
In a future turn,
then
yes.
you could get more points.
Yes, exactly. So say the game ended and we had here, you look and see how many roofs you've got. Well, roofs, that's going to be 7 points. You look and see, oh, I got to 5 in brown, 9 and in gray and white, and then 11 in black. And then if I had gotten any of these tokens, notice they fit nicely into
board,
the little board, and you just add everything up, and that's the way the game's played. So that's the overview. What'd you think?
I think it's great. I think one thing we needed to say is that once you have 10 of these pieces in front of you,
Oh, yeah.
you have to play.
Well, there's a limit. If you
Yeah.
were to take cards that put you over 10, you get to choose which ones you discard.
Right.
But you can only, from turn to turn, keep no more than 10 of these pieces.
That's really important to know because that's why you're trying to get the correct colors when you're pulling the cards.
For sure.
And you're wanting to make sure that you can play on these different buildings. And that's where you kind of have some blocking potential with other people. You're seeing what colors they have, and you want to make sure that they can't get free actions.
Right.
Because your free action can be to place a tower.
Yeah.
Or it could be to get more stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
So, for example, if I wanted to place around this, I have to have a black to be able to do any of those builds around there. And there are times we found that there was a situation where it's like, oh, I would love to be able to do that, but I can't.
But then you went and put a brown, and I didn't have any brown, so I couldn't do it, or whatever.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
so what do you think of the game?
I think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's very straightforward and easy to play. It's great because this changes the game up quite a bit, and it's super, super, super important to not ignore these things because 7-3 is a pretty big swing of points.
Definitely.
Because our scores are always very, very close.
They were very close. The last game, it was interesting. Because you didn't have the right mix of pieces, you had 2 roofs when at the end of the game you were only able to place 1.
Yeah.
And because you had a chance to possibly get to a bonus, but you weren't going to be able to on that turn. Whereas I had 2 going into my last turn, was able to get the bonus action, so I was able to go out
Yeah,
early.
You really want to try to get these up to get the bonuses, to get the free placement.
Definitely, yeah.
And you really want to pay attention to these and try to be the first one to attain those goals since the score is quite close.
Definitely.
But it's just really fun. The pieces fit together perfectly. They go on top of each other really well. Like I said, you're okay if somebody goes on top of you.
Well, you are, but you're also not.
Well, it's only
because
a
you want to
point.
have no. It's not just a point because look, as you go up, it goes 7, and then it jumps to 9, and then it jumps to 11, and to 13. So you want to. I mean, you're a little bit bummed out, but that's okay. I mean, because you have all of these different options in the game.
It doesn't affect your ability to accomplish these tasks, which I think makes it pretty good and more family friendly.
Yeah.
That you're not like, oh man, I had to accomplish these all at the same time before someone covered my things up.
Yes.
Then it would be more of a mean game. But
yes,
this isn't
that's
mean.
true.
This is not mean.
No.
This is friendly.
Definitely family style game and quick to play, and just it looks great on the table.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah.
So again, this is Tower Up from Monolith Games, designed by Gregoire Largey, Frank Crittin, and Sebastien Pauchon. Really solid for 2 to 4 players, 30 to 45 minutes. Definite recommendation. All right, guys, that'll do it for this video. Remember, sponsor the podcast, check out that list of games down below, and make sure you subscribe and give us a thumbs up. Have a great one. Take care of yourselves. Listen to the audio, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.